Hey, we are back with the Who's Your Band podcast, and we have a great one for today. But right before we get started with that, sitting here with my buddy, Sean Morton.
Hi, Jeffrey.
Hello, Sean Morton. Hey, I was thinking about you this week.
Naked in the shower?
I wish. Two of your favorite things I saw. Your favorite brand, Primus, is doing...
Fuck them.
Yeah, they're doing Farewell to Kings.
Primus is doing a Rush tribute show.
Well, I know how much you like both bands.
Yeah, I'd rather blow my brains out than go to that show.
I got you some tickets, so I think maybe...
Did you?
Yeah, you and I will go. We'll have a good time.
I'll be right
enjoying
there.
Primus,
that night.
doing a whole Rush set.
Yeah.
But enough of this tomfoolery. Let's get right into it, because we
have great guests.
Great guests, jam-packed show. And I'm sitting here with Don Jamieson. Hello, Don.
Hi.
You actually came up on a previous episode of our podcast.
Uh-oh.
You really did.
What was her name, and what did she claim I did?
Well, we weren't sure if she actually was a woman, but for anybody who doesn't know, Don was one of the former hosts of That Metal Show on VH1 Classics.
That I will admit to.
13 seasons?
14.
14.
Get it right, Morton.
Wow, 14 seasons. You don't see a lot of people getting that long of a run with the show.
It was a great run, man.
And I love the show. Every episode was fantastic.
Yeah, they were great.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
And,
it was
phenomenal.
blessed to have that kind of a run. Thanks.
Phenomenal stand-up comedian. And our other guest...
Cassidy Catanzaro?
Yes.
Am I saying it right? Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Cassidy
Leave
Catanzaro.
it to a Jersey guy to get that right, though.
Staten Island guy, but
Same thing.
don't put me in the same category.
Jersey with a cover
please.
charge.
We're in Jersey, though, so we have to learn how to pronounce
former lead singer of Antigone Rising.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, now doing solo.
Yeah, I'm doing my own thing now.
So we're excited to have both you guys in here today, and we'll talk and we'll say some stuff. So let's start with Don. Where'd you grow up, Don?
Parts unknown.
What the fuck does that mean?
He thinks he's a wrestler from the 80s. Yeah.
I don't want people tracking me down. I grew up in New York.
New York City.
Yeah, and I've lived back and forth in New York and New Jersey my whole life. So.
Where'd you go to high school?
I mean, what do you want? My address? You want my social security number? Sean, help me out here,
you work
bro.
for the CIA?
You didn't tell me I had to reveal all this information.
That's great.
What am I signing up for Clear at the airport? Is this TSA pre-check?
Why is this so sensitive information? Where'd you go to high school?
I grew up in South Jersey at a place.
At a place.
There's trees in the street.
So what kind of kid were you?
School.
We always like the rocket kid. Were you?
No. I liked Japanese glockenspiel. Of course.
Very funny. I played the glockenspiel.
I'm so happy I'm not the one beating the shit out of Jeff today. This is great. This is going to be a fun episode.
Don
I'm ready.
is really nice to me. What's on today? Everyone's taking
it
a
just
shot.
got very personal. In this day and age of voter, or ID, what do they call it? Theft. ID theft and all
We're
that
going to
stuff.
start this again.
I'm nervous. No, it's good.
Okay.
I since I'm 11, I've loved, Kiss Destroyer was my first album.
Yes.
And I never went away from that. And all through high school, there was, I got into different types of hard rock and metal, and I went through all the phases, where I liked the heavier stuff like Judas Priest and Iron Maiden, and then I wore like the leather and all that stuff, and then Motley Crue and all those the 80s.
Too Fast for Love, best album.
They came around, so then I was wearing spandex and eyeliner, but I was, I had the mullet. That's, in Jersey, if you grow up in Jersey, that's a law. You have to have a mullet and hang out at the mall, and that's what I did.
When you're high school, did you do like the whole Jersey club scene, like going to what was that? What was the place in? There was a couple of the Colonel's Garter. There was all those.
Birch Hill.
Birch Hill was a great.
Yeah,
but what was the big
Playpen.
one? Fountain Casino. That's the one I couldn't think of. You did that?
I never really did the Fountain Casino, but Birch Hill for sure. That was the place right in Central Jersey where you could. And also I went to college at Rutgers, and so it was easy to go over the Verrazano and get to back then it was $1. Now it's $47. It's like a mortgage payment to get over there. But yeah, Sean knows we used to go to L'Amour's and go see all the bands out there. So and then New Brunswick had a really cool scene back then with the Court Tavern and all that place. So we had some and we had great rock bands come through and play. At the campus and stuff. So I was always a record collector. We had a great record store. So I was always, the music thing was just always a big part of my life, man.
And the band that you love, your favorite band, you said, is going to be Saxon.
So yeah, the band that I guess we're going to talk about tonight is Saxon, and they're not really that well known.
Yeah, you could talk about them all night because I've never heard one song from Saxon. I'm a metal fanatic. I've never heard one song from Saxon.
Denim and Leather
Never
brought us all together.
Nope. Never heard it. Yeah.
No, how about Princes of the Night?
Princess of the Night.
No, I just told you no.
Crusader.
Princes of the Night.
What year did that come out?
That's off of Denim and Leather, so that's why,
What year?
81, 83?
82, 83, yeah.
All right, so I was 6 years old, so of course I didn't.
little.
Yeah,
But you know
I didn't-
Elvis.
Yeah.
You going to compare Elvis to Saxon for Christ's sake?
Yeah, he doesn't hold the
mainstream.
candle.
But you go back.
He doesn't hold the candle.
I don't know that Saxon was quite as big as Elvis. Close, but not quite as big.
God, Saxon really was like
Like
the
King
ultimate they were the ultimate 80s metal band.
Yeah, that was
you know?
that whole
They were
that
like
whole genre.
before they were before Iron Maiden
I love all that
and
shit.
Priest. Like they were bigger than Priest in Europe.
Where are they from? Are they Europe? Are European?
They're British, yeah.
Okay, so they're part of that whole new wave of British heavy metal kind of
Exactly.
scene? Okay.
So when those albums came to America, here's the new wave of British heavy metal, and they had the compilation album, and Saxon was one of those bands, and I just always loved them, and probably because a lot of people didn't or just didn't know
that's
them.
cool.
Yeah.
So that's like Motorhead, same thing. Like I took all these bands under my wing because and Maiden too, who obviously ended up being humongous. But I always loved that. Oh, these are my bands,
Right.
Sure.
like that I could hold, and then some of them got huge. Metallica, obviously, and the bands that were the underground at the time, Megadeth and all that.
Yeah.
Some of them became huge, and then Saxon had a little bit of a success in America, and so my new album is based on their album Denim and Leather. I made a Denim and Laughter.
That's pretty cool. I like that.
Great.
Great.
And I just stole their artwork and so
My next album.
put myself on it. So.
My next album is going to be called Gaga Bieber Spears. So that way anybody Googles it on iTunes, it pops up
I
instantly.
wish I wasn't sitting this close to you right now.
It's like Marilyn
that's
Manson.
smart marketing,
That
though.
is smart marketing.
No, there's a Chad Zumach from Cleveland,
Yeah.
a comic friend of ours. He all the tracks on one of his CDs are like Lady Gaga songs.
That's great.
So when they Google it, it comes to his CD and they download his
brilliant.
stuff accidentally.
It's really hard to get things like that though up on so CD Baby and like all they fight you on things like that. If they see a name that's similar, they'll take it down or they're really weird about copywriting. That's the only thing. I wonder if he has any trouble with that. I'd be curious. Anyway, just
He's got
stupid,
lots of other problems.
boring
He's a
business stuff,
comic.
but
We all
yeah,
have
like all that
problems.
digital stuff, it's complicated now.
The other thing about Saxon is like we talked about record stores. They had great cover art, and that's something that you don't see anymore. Like with downloads is a cover art. And so if you weren't really sure like of this band, you're like, well, they're kind of the same genre of a band you may like. You looked at that cover and say, I'll give them a shot. And then like you said, Crusader is a really great album, great song. It has like one of the what. Saxon was kind of the inspiration of Spinal Tap.
Yeah.
All right, I know
so
that.
so they have this big sound, big introductions to
Over
these
the
songs,
top,
like
yeah.
rain and horses and stuff.
great.
Really really very over the top. But the riffs are so catchy and great. I think you could see how they kind of like lead and become the inspiration to like Metallica and Pantera, who we talked about last time, and Megadeth, and all these other bands.
I think
right?
that was what set those bands apart, though, the ones that really had songs you could remember, right? Because like a lot of them were cool and they all had this big guitars, but the ones that were really writing songs and had cool riffs, I think those are the best ones,
You brought up a great point, and this is going to be leading into
Great.
Cassidy here, is about the cover art. So I can remember it was probably 12 years ago. I was down in Atlantic City, and we were driving back, and we stopped at a Starbucks. We were looking for something different. Now, as much as of a rock metal guy that I am, I also have a different side that I love a lot of like rock and singer-songwriter stuff. So one of my favorite artists is Melissa Etheridge, and I'm a big fan of her, always will be. So we walked into a Starbucks and looking at the whole CD section, and then we saw a CD that had 5 women on the front of it. Never heard of it before. And it was a band called Antigone Rising, from the ground up. So we looked at each other and said, okay, let's buy this album and listen to it. And we put it in, and it really didn't leave our CD player for a few years afterwards. So yes, great cover art can lead to discovering new artists. And one of those new artists that I discovered is our guest today, Cassidy Catanzaro.
Yeah. Well,
Nice segue. Thank
Welcome.
you.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you should say that, though. Just on that thought, I've had more people say that they bought the record because of the photo. The cover photo. There was something about it that there was just, and it wasn't. It was 5 women, but we were wearing leather jackets and T-shirts. I mean, it certainly wasn't. Nowadays, you have to get your ass out. You know what I'm saying? Like for anybody to pay attention to anything. It wasn't like that. We were just 5 women stacked on a photo, our faces, and people still recognize me, I think, even just from the photo. Like, how do I know you?
Well, it was different because you're always, there's a million times you have one female in a band. So unless you're talking about like Vixen, but there really wasn't an all-female band that had broken out in a long time.
In a long time.
Vixen, Runaways, I mean.
Well, I'm talking about like.
And like at that period of time, like they had the Donnas and they had like, there were a couple of bands that they were trying to push. Remember the Donnas? And they were great. I met those girls. They were actually really cool girls. But we were a little bit different in that, it was real musicians, not to put anybody down, but we were really playing our instruments. Everybody was really good, accomplished. Our drummer was amazing. You know what I'm saying? We were a real band. You could come see us and it was like actually a show. I mean, we were going out and playing with Aerosmith and the Stones and the Allmans were taking us out. So it wasn't like even though it was gimmicky because it was all women, we weren't like a gimmick band.
Sure.
And I think that sort of set us apart.
So how did you get started? Where did you grow up? Were you Jersey?
I grew up in New Jersey.
What zip code?
I'm going to tell you what my childhood house is right now.
What's your
Get
pin
the coordinates. I'm
code
going to give you the
for
coordinates.
ATM
You got a pen. I'm going to give you the coordinates.
Yeah, Jeffrey's collecting information. He's like
I'll
a
tell you,
human
I've had a
computer.
couple of stalkers.
On the side, I do taxes. I just want to make sure that you guys are up to code.
Oh God, please don't. Not as a musician, man. You know what that's like. So I grew up in New Jersey, Northwest Sussex County, Lake Mohawk, up in like the lakes up there.
By Sparta.
Beautiful, by Sparta.
Yep.
Beautiful place. And it was weird for me, because I was sort of, I was always an artist. I didn't really fit in. It was very sort of academic and sports focused, school system. And I think I knew right away that I was a little bit different. So I couldn't wait to get out. I couldn't wait to get to the city, So immediately when I was very young, I moved to New York City, and then went out to Los Angeles and spent a lot of years out there. But yeah, like I grew up like singing in church, basically, as a little girl.
So who'd you wind up listening to? Like, you're looking at 3 metalheads here.
Yeah, well, I think it would surprise you. I listened to metal also. It was a lot of like my babysitters and my friends' older brothers and sisters listened to like Motley Crue and Judas Priest and all the ones you're mentioning, Metallica and King Diamond and all of like all that stuff. We loved all of that. That was what I listened to. The other thing that I listened to a lot was because of where I grew up, there was only one radio station, and it was a classic rock radio station. And it's still there, and it still plays classic rock. But we were listening to, like, Lynyrd Skynyrd and Fleetwood Mac and Joni Mitchell, and, like, I didn't know that, of course, Bruce Springsteen, but I didn't know there was any other kind of music really growing up. It was all guitar-driven, song-led, very, like, vocal-heavy harmonies, That was what I thought was music, and it sort of naturally took me there in terms of the way that I wrote after. But I always loved rock bands and rock music and big sound.
So who was your biggest inspiration as a band? Am I hearing Fleetwood Mac?
I would say probably in the sense that I love vocals in a band. I love having multiple instruments. I love piano and guitar and drums. I love that sort of blue-eyed soul sound, like the ability. What I loved about bands from that time, if you look at bands like Doobie Brothers, like Fleetwood Mac, like Little River Band even, right? You could have on an album a song that sounded a little bit more kind of soul and then a song that was more like country rock. And you could have multiple singers too. And nobody ever thought like, well, every song needs to sound exactly the same or else we don't know what this is. We don't know what to do with it. Like there was no such thing as that. You could kind of bridge and span different genres within one band. And so for me, I liked the idea of experimenting with sound like that and having big vocals, having harmonies, always having piano and guitar if we could, and having as many people on stage as possible. Like I just like big bands with a lot of singers, and I would say that was it. And then later on, of course, I got more influenced like by Stevie Wonder and all the kind of more soul stuff. But that wasn't until later.
A little bit of Motown in there too.
A little bit, yeah. Like later on.
So you like a full sound.
I do. I like a real band. I never got into sort of using loops and anything. Nothing that couldn't be recreated live.
See, Saxon didn't fuck around. they just came out there and they ripped it like right from the beginning, man.
Yeah.
They
I was
were
never
great.
into lube either.
Not loop.
Not
Oh,
lube.
you said loops? Oh, sorry about that.
And they don't think they
my
used
mind
any
went
lube.
elsewhere.
I don't think they used any lube.
No,
I'm glad I didn't bring any then.
And that's a bit. That's a big thing now with bands now, especially with rock bands, is the criticism of like, oh, they're using backing tracks and all this stuff and whatever. And I say this: it's like we're in the day and age of where people record everything, right?
Yeah.
So especially if you're a big band, if they're going to put that show up on YouTube 5 seconds after the concert's over, and so these bands want to sound good.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are resorting to using some trickery, and I gotta say, I don't really blame them. Like we're comics. We can't put a laugh track behind us. It is
I'd
what
love
it
to.
is. Yeah, well, and they could just make a hologram of us, and we don't have to
Exactly.
show up. But for rock bands, it's very important for them to sound great because people look up the set list. And then they judge, I'm not going to go this time because I don't like the set list. Or then they go, I'll go and see how it sounds. Or if they hear it sounds not good on YouTube, they go, I'm not going to go see it.
It's really hard, man. Like anymore, it's so difficult because not only is all of the technology there at your disposal, it makes it so much easier and it sounds so much better and you can tune things and you can chop things up and you can chop up performances. Like all of that's fine as long as you have the people that can deliver the goods, live. But I think the biggest problem is that there's not as much money in it as there once was. So
In money and what?
in doing music, period.
Well,
Like
the money now is on the side of touring as opposed to making
yes and no,
music.
though. Like you think that it is,
You can't
but
make it really much as an album.
but to bring 6 guys out on tour, it's really expensive. I mean, we were a band, we were broke for a really long time, but
you can make it up on merch as well because now I think artists are getting a bigger piece of the merch.
I think that's what people
That's a higher
think.
level, a little bit of a higher level band can kind of squeak by that
Totally.
way, and meet and greets and stuff.
Right.
And that's why this is a whole other conversation. But the Brexit thing is affecting bands over there because lower level bands can't. In 2021 are not going to be able to tour unless they can prove they have a certain amount of money in the bank and that they're a sustainable band. And that's going to hurt a lot of bands.
It is going to hurt a lot.
Well, it's got to be
it's
hard
tough
to,
across the board here, there, everywhere.
Yeah.
to be a band starting out now. I mean, it's almost like college. Like you're going to have to pay, lose money, and then stick it out, and hopefully you're able to make it up
You
down
have
the
to
road.
imagine, right? Like bands now are contending with the fact that there's so much people don't want to leave their houses. They don't have to. They have computers, they have their phones, they have their, they didn't have that so much as when I was coming up.
There's still nothing better than seeing live music.
Yeah,
Don and I were talking
we're a
about
different
tours
generation.
on
You
the
know
way
what I'm saying?
over here.
We
know
think
that. We know that.
We know that, but I don't know that a 20-year-old thinks that necessarily.
Technology
point.
Technology can really work against you too, because like we've said this before. I know ahead of time if I'm going to a show and there's 3 bands going on ahead of time, and I don't like the 2 bands before that, I'm going to go right on Setlist FM, and I'm going to say, okay, so Monster Magnet's playing on April 18th, and if I don't want to get there early, I want to get there when they start playing Space Lord. I can go right on there, and I flip through a couple things.
But of
and
course,
then
you love Monster Magnet.
I do,
so.
but I'm just using that as an example. Like, but it's also
They're my boys. I got
one of
it.
their
no, it loses.
But I know what you're saying,
It loses the luster because you want to go to a show and you want to be in the moment. So first thing people are doing is taking up their phones, or if they're like 50 and 60, they take up their iPads and they're holding up their
my
iPads at a
God.
concert
To do what?
to tape the whole show.
As opposed to just watching
Why?
it.
But
It makes me insane.
Who is going back on their iPhone and saying, "Oh, Don, you guys see this? Watch this concert."
Nobody
I saw."
does it because we're so
Nobody ever.
because we're so ingrained into.
How fast would you
into
punch me in the
living-
face if I did that to you?
I do
This
that
happens.
anyway.
This happens. I had to watch a show recently through somebody's phone who was standing in front of me because I couldn't see the stage.
It's ridiculous.
Because he had his phone up. It was ridiculous, and it happens all the time. I mean, listen, I mean, I could go on and on about it, but you didn't have to post every single thing. You didn't
Right.
have to tell everybody every single thing about yourself. You didn't have to post every single day and talk about what you had for breakfast. There was mystery in our rock stars, right? You asked me, right? You asked
That's
me
the
about
great thing about not knowing the set list too.
Well, yeah, all of it. Like it ruins it, and I
totally
feel like
does.
I'm frustrated by it. I have to say, I think that it's ruined a lot of the fun of it, a lot of the mystery, a lot of, Pearl Jam was one of my favorite bands growing up, and I loved Eddie Vedder. I didn't know anything about him. You want to know what I knew about him? I knew his records, and I knew what he was saying on his records, and that was it. And you know that's still true?
Absolutely.
I still don't know anything about him. I know what he does publicly,
Perfect.
and that's it. And I'm okay with it. Like, I've never once tried to find out anything else
He's a
about
Cubs
him.
fan. That's all we know.
Yeah, we know. We know he's
Exactly.
got
That's all he lets out.
Maybe like we found out recently. I swear to you, and I'm a big fan. I didn't even know he had kids and was like remarried and had some kids.
I just learned something about him.
Like recent,
Which I love. That's
what
the
I'm
best.
saying.
That's why you come on this show.
He's got like kind of grown kids. Yeah, and I love that I
Well, he's
didn't
got
know
to be
that.
like in his 50s now,
He
right?
is
Sure.
now, yeah. But like it's just
But
the point that like
so am I have no kids.
Yeah, I don't have any kids either. But I actually love that. I love not knowing things. I loved waiting for the records to come out. I loved hearing what he had to say on the records and the occasional interview. I waited for that. Now nobody wants to watch interviews or do the thing. They will, but at their own leisure, they don't have to.
Do you guys remember, like, you would like sometimes hear like a concert or an interview on the King Biscuit Flower Hour?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The syndicated show. Yeah, of course.
And you would wait, like, I think it was on like on a Sunday at 11,
Yes.
11 or midnight or
Right.
so. So it
Or
was late.
shows like yours, you know what I'm saying? Like I was on a few of those shows too. Like I did a lot of the I Love series on VH1. I was in a ton of those, and like any of those interview shows, like you waited for those. You waited for like the new albums to come out, and you guys were going to debut it, or somebody was going to debut the new record, and you sat in front of your television. You waited for the new video. You waited for the. That stuff doesn't exist anymore.
I was a
feel like it's
I was a
sad.
guest on a friend's podcast a couple months ago. We were talking about concert etiquette, and we talked about one of the shows that I went to was the Misfits show at Prudential Center. Oh, yeah. Now, I'm not a gigantic Misfits fan, but I love the hits. You know, like everybody knows the history of the Misfits.
And Glenn loves to be photographed and
Yes.
videoed.
Well, that was the whole thing. When you walked in, they checked your phone into a neoprene sleeve.
They're doing this now.
Well, I'm a fan of it. I'm not going to lie.
too.
I'm a
Huge
fan of
fan
it.
of
I'm a
it.
fan
Oh
of it.
yeah, Yonder bags, right? There's like a new
Yeah,
thing. Yeah.
they're green bags, and I'll never forget this concert till the day I die because there was 19,000 people in that place. Now, granted, there was some jerks who snuck their phones in. There was about 20 or 30 phones that were out, but there was 19,000 people in the moment making a piece of history.
That's what I'm
like
saying.
it was history. Like I'll always remember that show as seeing all these people singing every word to every single song.
Right.
And just enjoying the moment. And not one of them is going back and saying, hey, do you want to hear this? No, it's horrible. I'm all
It
for
drives
that.
me. I love that. And
I'm all for
Dave
it.
Chappelle's doing that now in his shows.
He's one of the ones who started it.
Yeah.
He's one of the ones who started it. And even the Tool concert that I went to was the same way.
Yep.
They didn't lock him up, but they said, we catch you using your phone when you're getting thrown out.
I love it. Madonna
And-
did it.
Yeah, and it was, I love it. And there was just people just sitting there watching the show,
Thank
enjoying
you.
it. And at the last song, Maynard goes, guys, you were a great audience. Take your phones out. This one's on us. And they played Stinkfist, and of course, like programmed animals that we all are. As soon as you said take our phones out, boom, everybody's phone is up like this, recording
That's
it.
my favorite Stormy Daniels film, by the way. Stinkfist.
That's a classic.
Stinkfist, yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah, man.
I'm a big fan of that. I love it. Comics are starting to do it. I'm 100% for it.
Yeah, man. I
As
just think
performers, and you just saw there's a video of Chris Robinson with his brother doing an acoustic show for a benefit or whatever. It's just him and his brother Rich, and they're doing acoustic songs. He's like, guys, you gotta stop. You gotta shut the fuck up, man. Am I allowed to say that?
Yeah.
You got to shut the fuck up. We're up here. I can't even hear myself sing. You guys are talking the whole time. Hey, we're happy to be here for you guys. You paid us to come here to perform for you. But man, you got to be quiet, man. We're trying to work up here, And it's like
etiquette.
It is, because nobody has etiquette anymore because they're too consumed. I got this phone and my iPad and this, and I got to say this to this guy. No.
And there's no attention span, and there's no respect. Like, I have to say, I feel like an old lady sometimes talking about it, but I do feel like it's something that needs to be spoken about more. And I think I love that artists are taking a little bit of initiative to say, listen, unfortunately, like the reason we have laws and rules and all, because people don't do the right thing.
Right.
Isn't it a shame? They just don't naturally do the right thing, so we have to put rules in place. So
entitlement.
fine. Yeah, and so it has to be done. It's like, we got to take your phones from you because you don't know to leave them down during the show. Like, really? I just, for me, it's lost some of the fun.
Oh, also, people aren't considerate in general now anyway.
I know.
And, like, who was it? You just said you had to look over someone's shoulder the
Yeah,
whole
I
time.
had to look through his
a
phone to
concert.
watch the show.
And one thing that you done, were you ever in a band? Did you ever a musician? You play anything?
In high school, yeah.
You did?
Yeah, I bought a Les Paul when I was like 15, and was like, yeah, I'm all in on this, and because music's just been such a passion in my life. And then I kind of, like 17, 18, I kind of plateaued out, and I was like, yeah, I don't really have the passion to go further with this. And being a big fan of music, I was like, I'm going to let the people who do have the passion for it do it for me, and I'll just sit back and enjoy it. But I knew I wanted to do something creative, and then it was like years later when I was really starting to get into comics a lot more, and I was like, yeah, that's good. And like, there's, to carry equipment and split the money 5 ways, and just put my dick jokes in my pocket and go, and that's cool.
Sean, you're still in a band, right? You're still
Not still. I mean, we were talking about it off air, but like that's how I got into comedy, was being in a band. We were a rock band for 8-9 years, and it just fell apart, like not in a bad way. We just, we all went our way, and then I became, I found comedy through that. But, we still try and play once in a while. Like the last time we practiced, we were covering X-Ray Visions by Clutch. So I'm saying, all right, let me try this. And then the next morning, I'm coughing blood.
Oh my God.
Because I'm blowing my voice out by trying to mimic Neil Fallon. And I'm like, I can't do this, because now like my money comes from comedy. So I can't screw around being in a 10x10 basement trying to play Johnny Rockstar at this point in my life. I can't lose my voice doing it. But we're, we get together once in a while. We'll play. I've been writing a lot of other stuff that's just not rock in the least bit. It's going to be more pop country than anything, but it's always creative. You always got to keep the creative juices flowing, whatever way it is.
Yeah, you find yourself. I mean, look at Andrew Dice Clay, who I was lucky enough to tour with for 10 years. He never wanted to be a comic. He wanted to be an actor.
Yeah. Oh, right.
And he just wanted to find a way to be noticed.
And he was great in A Star Is Born.
And so, right. So now it's so crazy now, late 50s and the early 60s, he's doing exactly what he wanted to do to begin with. But in the meantime, he became the biggest comedian in history.
Absolutely.
So it's just, we find our way eventually in this thing.
Yep.
Whether it's music, whether it's, if you're artistically inclined in terms of painting or sculpting or anything like that, if you're a musician or if you're blessed with a great voice, and you find it, hopefully you find it.
You do. I mean, I also think you have to be versatile. I think that one of the things that I've learned to keep a career over as long as, you do is, you have to adjust, you have to pivot. It's like, so maybe one thing isn't working, but you still want to be creative. You start doing something else, you find expression. We were saying you just have to express yourself sometimes, and you find ways to do that, whatever that looks like,
Now, when you were with Antigone Rising, were you guys more of a collaborative writing style, or were you doing a lot more of the writing of the lyrics?
I wrote pretty much all of it. That first record, I wrote the whole thing.
Okay.
Those songs were written before I joined the band even. So those songs were all written on that first record from the ground up. When I was living in California, I had written them, and I had a band in LA, but at the time, and it's kind of still the same situation sometimes for artists, you have a band that this is what they do for a living, so they can't necessarily like come out with you and not get paid. Like they have to, they have their bills to pay.
Sure.
So I had a really tough time keeping a band together in Los Angeles, even though I think a lot of them liked the music. It was hard for them. They had a big overhead, whatever. They had other opportunities. Antigone was looking for a singer, and they had actually heard those songs recorded in demo form. Mm-hmm. And somehow got them. I don't know if it was like through my manager or something. They asked to meet with me, and then I ended up joining that band. And we took all the songs and sort of adapted them for that band.
Sure.
And then made that record.
You had a couple demos though before that.
I did. I had a couple things before that. Nothing that really was like things that people started to find after the fact, which is always kind of how it goes. Nothing that I really released big, but yes, some things that people got their hands on after.
Now, it's From the Ground Up was your major label, but you guys did a couple like independent releases before that.
We did. We did a live record called Traveling Circus that was from a place called Revolution Hall in Albany. Like I don't know if it's still there. I don't think it is. I think it's closed now, but that was great. And that one was probably like right when things were starting to break really big. We weren't signed yet, but we were starting to sell a lot of shows out. Like it was just like that electric moment. I almost feel like that was when we were the most perfect in the sense that nobody got in there.
What time period are we talking about here?
I would say, let me think for a second. That was probably like 2000, maybe 3 or 4 was when things were like starting to just really blow up, but we didn't get our record deal yet. Just before anybody got their hands on us.
In 2004, I don't remember that far. Are they still selling records? Like, was that like a thing, or has it become like an end?
No, that was hard copy. That was hard copy CDs.
Oh yeah, and not only that, I always say, I literally am the last person that got a publishing deal. You know what I mean? Like our band was literally the last band to like get like a decent sized record deal. Like all that stuff stopped pretty much after 2007, 2008. Like once we got a nice publishing deal, we got a nice record deal, but people stopped getting like deals like that after us.
Cool. Well, so what's going on now, Don? What do you have? You have a new CD out. Cool.
Yeah, I actually got a record deal with a heavy metal label, which
That's so cool.
Metal Blade Records.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
That's like the coolest thing in the world, though.
Yeah, this label that has shaped my musical taste since I'm a teenager.
How cool.
That's so awesome.
And
great album art on this CD.
Yeah,
Really.
love that.
We've been talking earlier about the packaging, right, with all this stuff. And I always tell people, like, I parody all my favorite bands with my comedy CDs. Yeah, I've done Judas Priest, I've done Thin Lizzy, I've done Led Zeppelin, now Saxon. But you don't have to like any of those bands to get what the content of the album. You know what I mean? Like, this is comedy with a rock and roll attitude. You don't necessarily have to like any of those bands to understand what's going on in the album. And but for the people who do, they get a little extra humor. And again, the packaging to me is so cool because I grew up with vinyl, and that's important.
You did something really great on that, on your credits on that. Yeah, Don's a beast, right? I see him all the time at Greenwich. He plays Monsters of Rock, right? But he also works out stuff at Mike Bonner's room in Station. And this is like a guy who runs like a little room in New Jersey, gives comics a chance, puts people on, and you thanked him on your liner notes.
I saw that. It was very cool.
I thought that was like such a great thing to do, man. The guy really super appreciated it.
Yeah, well, when you're out doing this for a living, people are expecting you to go up and deliver laughs for an hour. And so you're not trying to, you could fit in some new stuff, but, that's a place where I could just go down with 20, 25 minutes of brand new stuff and just go through it.
I love that.
And I literally just go through with the notes and go, nope.
Right, that
Nope.
didn't work.
Just did the same thing
All right,
Friday
that's
night.
good.
Yeah.
No, that's
this needs
no
work,
good.
maybe a little bit, yeah.
So it's like a little bit of a safety net to try to work out new stuff because, there's people who are super prolific, same with musicians, right? Like, oh my God, he's got 12 new songs already,
it's crazy.
and they're all great. And then there's other people, like it takes them 4 years to get 12 new songs. And I'm sort of in the middle in terms of comedy. Like, I'm not as prolific as some guys, much more prolific than other guys. I wasn't looking at you for that part necessarily, but there's a place to work this stuff out in hunks where you can sort of get it done because the opposite of what bands do is when comedians put out an album, like you guys, musician puts out an album, they want to play the songs from the new album.
Right, and people
right?
want the hit.
Comics, you put the album out,
You're done.
Done. This material's shot.
Oh, right.
You can't tour it because they just bought it, so they're going to buy the album. And then
I don't want to
listen
do
it
this
all.
material and then go buy the CD. They'll go home and go, I just heard
Doesn't
this.
get the same effect.
That's
You're having the joke
interesting.
3, 5
Okay,
times.
that
When the
makes
rabbit's
perfect
out of the
sense.
hat, it's over. So
They say that about specials too, like when you put something on Netflix or something.
Same
thing.
thing. Same
Yeah.
concept.
Okay, that makes sense.
And so, there's a few little hidden gems where I go and try out new stuff, and it's been great down there. So I thank Mike on here because a lot of this stuff was born in there
I've done that
and
room.
failed miserably.
Oh, listen, I've done that room
and
too
it's
to
rare
work
to
out
have
stuff.
places like that too that aren't so worried about they let you come in and just do your thing.
There's a bit on here.
There's
a bit on here called "Hit by a Bus," and then I did this at Mike's place probably. Oh, well, he's probably only seen it 7 or 8 times.
Before you do, describe to the people listening the crowd that goes to Station.
Oh man, older.
Yes, much older.
Obviously,
They don't know heavy metal.
Well, that's okay. That's okay.
They
They're
don't.
there for the food.
Are they there to
They're
see
there for the
comedy
No,
or what?
they'll go see comedy,
So-
but they're also eating at the same
Yeah,
time.
So it's like a rest.
It's
more
a free show.
Got you.
It was a free show every Friday night for God. He's been doing it for 5 or 6 years, I think now.
He's done over 200 shows.
That's awesome.
But when you go to a comedy show, if you invest the $20 into the ticket, you're invested in the show.
Right, when it's
they're
free-
also there and it's free. You're working.
Right, which is why
There's
which
no
is why I don't
stage.
mind if stuff doesn't.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah, it's good to be here on this floor in front of you.
Yeah.
Oh no.
And this bit, it haunted me. And I did it in the regular clubs. I had squeezed it into my regular paying gigs, like, bullied it in between two really good bits.
Sure.
Could not get a laugh off this thing. Even Mike was like, he goes, there's something there, I know, and you keep trying it, but man, it's not. I go, it doesn't get anything. I know there's something here. And I did it over and over at his place. And then I just woke up one day and I was like, I got it. I figured out what I'm missing on this one, and boom, I had it. And I was so happy to put this in on the album, only for just to show him. No, even more for me, yeah, also, but just to show him, like,
that's cool.
Thank you for letting this joke bomb a half a dozen times in your place before I finally figured out how to make it work.
So how does
and it's
this
one of my
work?
favorite bits now.
So how does this work? Do you record like multiple shows and then decide which one was the best night?
I did on this one. I did 2 shows.
Where'd you record this?
I recorded it in Los Angeles in a speakeasy.
Wow, that's cool.
An illegal club, yeah.
I love that.
That my friend owns, yeah. That we had to, set up a Facebook event page, and then we had to email everybody the morning of with the address because
that's really
we didn't want
cool.
to blast it out because they would have got shut down. And it was a cool scene, full bar and seats and great sound system and a stage and everything. And we did the 2 shows, and with. I don't know if you've done an album, but whether
I've recorded 3, never released them.
So
I was never happy with them.
That's funny. You got to get over that.
True story.
No, that's good. I mean,
I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to do them. I put the cart before the horse, definitely.
Right.
I was like, I would think I was a year in. I'm like, I'm going to record a CD, and everybody's like, you're out of your mind. But then I waited till I was 4 years in, and even 5 years in, I was nowhere near ready. But I'm going to do one in May. I'm going to record one in May.
And so I feel like whether you record, maybe it's the same with music, but I feel like if you record, no matter how many shows you record, I like to there's like one show, that's the show.
Right.
Like, okay, the second show was the show.
Yeah.
And then you sprinkle, and
It's
you
like
go,
vocal
all right,
takes.
I had a little better delivery the first show on this show.
It's like vocal takes or
and
like
then
that. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So you do mix and match, but I've recorded as many as 4, and I've as few as 2. And it's always the same. It's 95% one show because even if I flub something, if there's a rhythm going, I don't want
Keep it in.
I don't want to interrupt it.
But that's what's
Everybody
great
does
about
that.
a live album, too, like a real live album.
Yes.
The little bit of mistakes where it doesn't
Always.
sound like the record. That's what was great about Aerosmith when they had like their live album.
Like bootleg.
Yeah, you could hear like it wasn't the same as listening to like a studio record.
No, because you can't fix anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why remember like I used to go down to Bleecker Bob's.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember,
absolutely.
and remember in the white cover they would have the bootlegs.
Yep.
And you would listen to live recordings, and it was live, and that was great. So that's why I don't mind if a band doesn't sound exactly the way they do. I want to hear the mistakes. I want to hear the imperfections.
I used to go up to a place called Things from England in Cliffside Park.
I remember that.
They
store.
had a cassette
Yeah.
rack, and I'm a huge GNR fan, so I would go and I'd buy all these. I had like November Rain before, like 4 years before they recorded it, and it was just Axl on a piano. I
love that.
I had
I love
Guns N'
that.
Roses
Love
covering
that.
Guns N' Roses covering Jumpin' Jack Flash and Heartbreak Hotel and
Oh, yeah.
Shadow of Your Love before it even knew it existed. Those things were just. Now it's like people can just go on and type it up in front. I took a bus
Yeah.
to a different county to get these things.
Yeah.
And like that's the beautiful thing about the era that we grew up in is that there were these things you had to
keep going
sort
down this
and
road.
fight
And
out.
it was
It's the
special.
truth.
Like that's the thing. I had a ton of Pearl Jam bootlegs. Like again, I was a huge fan, but I had a ton of Pearl Jam bootlegs, and it was like he did this song called Reverend Dave, which was just this acoustic like cover song that like you never got anyplace else, but there was this one record that he was doing it on, and it was just so amazing. And I knew I was one of the only people that had this thing,
Right.
And that's you're right. It's what made it special for
For
sure.
years, I thought it was called Yellow Diabetic instead of Yellow Ledbetter. I had no idea. Because there was a kid
That's projection,
Well, there
Sean.
was a kid in high school who was a huge Pearl Jam fan, and like I had heard the song once or twice on K-Rock, and he goes, "This is Yellow Diabetic." I'm like, I don't know what it was, but he played. They learned the song before I even had a copy of it, and I think it was like 5 years ago. I thought it was Yellow Diabetic. I'm an idiot.
We talk about this on the show sometimes, but growing up in college, I put myself through college by owning a record store.
Oh
I
wow.
owned it in Staten Island. It was called First Time Records.
Wow, cool.
And I had Twisted Sister come down
Oh,
one
my
time
God.
to do a little record signing.
Yeah, I love them.
But I never was able to get the boot. I would have loved to have sold the bootlegs there as well.
Yeah.
It was great.
I sold a lot of metal stuff. I also, because I wanted to make money, I also sold a lot of the disco 12 inches.
Oh,
to
yeah.
DJs and mixtapes and stuff.
You must have a good vinyl collection.
I did. I got rid of it.
Did you?
I did. Yeah. When you're moving all around a
I know
lot,
what you
it's
mean. It's
hard
a
to
lot.
store
I
all
put
that
it in
stuff.
storage. Yeah.
Yeah, mine's in store. I have to get mine
I
out.
didn't
I
have
just
the
bought a new
foresight.
record player.
I have to keep a vinyl Excel spreadsheet for whenever I go. I do. I have it
Discogs,
right here.
bro.
I have it
you
right
gotta
here.
do.
No, I'm old school. I have the old school Excel spreadsheet. So whenever I go shopping, I have to actually scroll
you
through
remember
to
what
see.
you have.
Because you know how many times I've bought a duplicate?
Yeah.
I've done it 3 times already. I'm not getting burned
yeah.
again.
I
A
found
duplicate's good,
Astral
though, to have.
Weeks, Van
No.
Morrison
I
on
used to
vinyl.
love that.
It was amazing.
Which
No,
one?
but
Astral
Discogs.
Weeks.
Discogs
the best, yeah.
gives you all the metrics of it. And it shows you what pressing it is and
Yeah.
whether it's, like I have stuff that I didn't know. Like I have
You still have
AC/DC tons of it.
Yeah,
You
I
too,
do.
Cassie?
Yeah, I was just saying, I just got Astral Weeks, Van Morrison. I just found it, and it was like, such
I was
a
actually in a
Original?
record.
the original. Yeah.
I was in a record store in Philly.
Yeah,
on
amazing.
South
It sounds
Street.
great too. It's like not scratched.
Vinyl alter?
Crazy.
No, Vinyl was
so
great.
stupid.
It's another store right on South Street. It's right next to Tattooed Mom. There's a great bar there. And they have like a dollar basement. You just go down the basement and you just start digging, right? You just start digging. And I'm on the last crate. And I'm like, I'm getting tired. The mildew smell is killing me.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So I flip through and I see Terrence Trent D'Arby's first record. It was $1. I'm like, boom, I'm
That's a
taking
good
that.
one.
That was the one with
Taking-
Wishing Well, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
so then I'm
yeah.
flipping
I was
through.
working for CBS Records at the time.
And I see Meet the
That's a good one.
Beatles. So I'm like, yeah, I already have it, but you know what? For $1, I'm grabbing it.
yeah.
I bring it upstairs, and the guy's like, "Where'd you get this?" And I said, "It was in the basement." He goes, "In the dollar basement?" I said, "Yeah." And he flips it over. It was the first pressing.
Get outta
beat
here.
the shit, but he had it sold to me for $1.
Yeah, he
so I still
did.
have a first edition of
Yep.
Meet the Beatles at home.
That's
That's a
incredible.
score, man.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
See, we don't download stuff and go, hey, let me see the Air
No.
that
Yeah.
you just bought.
Exactly.
Oh, is that first Air pressing?
I
Like,
know.
That's
right.
what's great about the physical product.
I
I love
agree.
that, man.
too.
It's so great.
Are they selling this CD at the record store in Greenwich? Is that record store right around the corner from Greenwich Village Comedy Club?
No, so right now the physical copy's not in any record stores. It's just available digitally. But at my gigs, I'll have these, and I am going to make vinyl. So
That's pretty
that's
cool.
pretty
yeah,
cool.
I'm gonna
make
do it
those,
too, I think.
those
That's pretty
available.
cool.
What do you got going on?
I have a new record. I left my band. So
Under your name?
We talked about my band, but yeah, I left the band in 2008. And since then, I've done a lot. I was writing for other people. I wrote songs for Demi Lovato and Ellie Goulding and Nick Perry and lots of people. And that was super fun. But I missed it. I missed doing it myself. I needed to miss it. So I needed to take some time. And I've put out a couple of records since, just trying things, but I'm really proud of this record. The artwork's not even done yet. I just gave you guys a couple of advanced copies, but yeah, it's Cassidy and the Music is what I'm calling myself, my own thing. And the record is called All Good Things. I just released a single
Kill
called
the Lights.
Kill the Lights. Yeah.
Which is fantastic. I've played it like 17 times already.
And where are you performing? People want to
So I'm all over. So I do a few things. I have a show in Boston at City Winery. I have the Katharine Hepburn Theater in Connecticut. I've got some things coming up solo, but I'm also doing a symphony show.
Women of Rock.
Women Rock,
nice.
yeah, and it's killer.
What talk about that.
So
a
this
little
is
bit.
amazing. So this was crazy. I actually I'm also okay. I'm doing a movie this summer called Parallel Worlds. I'm starring in a movie. I just found out, and
Wow.
I was doing the play version. It's an original script. It's a rock musical. I was doing the play in Los Angeles, and got a call. I went home. I was done with the play. I wasn't sure what I was going to do next. I knew I probably wanted to come back east. I'd been in LA for a long time. I got a call from a casting director. She didn't even know if I was in town, but I happened to be in town. She's like, "Will you come in and sing for this thing? There's this producer putting on this show. It's called Women Rock." And I was a little bit wary. I had never sung anybody else's music. I always sang my own music. So I was always like, oh. She goes, the money was really good. She said, but it's a really cool show. It's going to be a rock symphony in front of symphony orchestras, and it's going to be 3 female singers, all different. So there'll be a sort of Aretha Franklin, Tina Turner singer. There'll be a rock singer like Janis Joplin and sort of, Pat Benatar and Hart and that kind of thing. And then there's going to be like a Joni Mitchell, Carole King. I thought for sure they were calling me for the rock stuff. They wanted me to come in and sing for Carole King. I was like, Okay. So I went in and I auditioned, and it was a massive audition. And they had the lead, the girl who was doing Beautiful on Broadway, came in and auditioned for it.
Oh, jeez.
And I thought, there's no way. Like, first of all, I'm not famous for my auditioning. Like, I'm not good at it. I can't stand that feeling of walking into a room and there's a table of people all staring at you. You don't know. But their vibe was really good. Like, they were chill, and like it wasn't nerve-wracking, and I was prepared, and it was
What song
easy
did you
enough.
sing?
So I had to sing "So Far Away,"
Oh, wow.
which was right.
Off of Tapestry?
Yeah. So all the songs off Tapestry, right?
Sounds
so
like a dad joke. What do you want me to say? It's so far away, son. Yeah.
So I got the show. So that was amazing that I got it. I didn't know what that necessarily meant, but I relocated back to the East Coast, and I've been doing that, and I've been writing a lot of songs. I recorded this with Mark, who's my partner in life and also in the music, and I'm super proud of it. But in the meantime, the producers of the play called me and said that they want to make a movie out of the play.
That's fantastic.
So I'm going back to LA to shoot a film this summer. Yeah, it's
LA is the
exciting.
greatest place in the world.
It is and
I
it
love
isn't.
it.
I lived
No,
there
I love it.
forever. I know.
love it.
Because you don't live there.
I was going to
Sean.
say,
Well,
I lived
yes.
I
there.
assure you.
Yeah. Did you live there too?
Well, no, but I've spent tons of time
Yeah.
out there, and I will say, and especially when we were doing that metal show, there is definitely an expiration date when it's not awesome anymore.
Yeah,
it's
I agree.
awesome. It is.
I needed to get out of
It's
there.
an awesome place when you know you're coming home.
Yeah, it's
See,
funny.
I love it.
That's a
When
great,
you know
that's a
you're
great
leaving
summary of it.
eventually,
Mark
it's
wants
so
to go.
good.
He loves it too. I keep trying to tell him, like, babe, it's fine, but there's something when you're used to dealing with real people. When you're East Coast, you can't get that out there. There's something you don't.
Unfortunately, it's every stereotype
It is
that
it's
it's
all
known
the
for
things.
and worse.
I never saw that every time I'm out there. I always seem to
What
hang
was the
out with
longest
the
time you were there?
Yeah, because you never.
It's a good
like 10
comedy scene,
days.
though. I will tell you.
No,
though.
and not even for comedy. Like, I'll go to the Rainbow and sit at the bar at the Rainbow for days on end, just hanging out. We had a great story. We were out there just hanging out at the bar, and we hear this horrible motorcycle it's just loud and obnoxious, and he pulls up, and it was Wes Scantlin from Puddle of Mud.
Mm-hmm.
So he just moved the seat over. He was like, how are you, man? And we're sitting down, we're bullshitting, and there was a girl who was at the end of the bar, gorgeous woman. And I was like, what do you do? She goes, I'm the whiskey ambassador for the country of Canada. And I'm like, you have the greatest job of all time. And I'm like, what are you doing here? She goes,
so
I'm only
good.
here for there's some sort of convention. I'm representing the country. And I go to Wes, I'm like, you need to sleep with her. And he's like, nah, I do that. So we're just trying to hook them up the whole time we're doing there. Like, we're just literally playing matchmaker between this beautiful girl and the singer from
You
Puddle
need
of
to
Mud.
sleep with the Wizard of Whiskey.
And he dropped the 50 and bought our drinks and left with her.
Wow.
So I love the Rainbow just for that reason. It makes love.
Yeah, it helps
It
to be in
makes
Puddle
love.
of Mud.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't
That's true.
hurt.
I don't think she knew who it was, though. She had no idea who it was. But I love it because, even in New York, you can blend in a little more. L.A., people just...
It's more of a scene. Like I would say, the difference between New York and LA is, like when I lived in the East Village, if I wanted an apple at 4 a.m, I could get up,
And you can walk
walk down my steps in my pajamas, go to the deli right on the corner, 10 feet away, buy an apple. I'm back in my apartment in under 90
I was gonna
seconds.
say, 4
LA, you got to shower, do your hair, your makeup perfectly, put on trendy clothes, go down into the car park, take your car to the garage, drive to the one Ralph's that's open 24/7 because you got to be made up in case there's an
God
agent
forbid.
who's getting an apple at the same time.
Yeah.
And 2.5 hours later, you're back in your apartment.
Did you notice one
That's
thing?
the difference.
One thing about L.A. is they closed everything very early in
Too
L.A.
early, yeah.
Like
Very
1 o'clock in
early.
the morning, the whole city rolls up.
Yep.
Because everyone drives.
And that's also the difference between New York comics and Los Angeles comics. New York comics are grittier. They're they're doing it because they want to be comics. They want to be funny. I think LA comics use comedy as a vehicle
Yeah.
to get a writing job, an acting job.
To be in a
Right,
movie or
exactly.
TV show.
Yeah, everybody
A lot of them are looking for that.
Sure, they cut their teeth out in New York, and then they try and go out to L.A. to get to the next level with, movies
It's
or
a
TV or
good
whatever.
community, though. I was in I did improv. I was on the other side of it, but it's a solid community. The comedians, the comedy clubs, and sort of the improv clubs are happening, man. There's a lot.
There's some
going
really
on.
good comics out there.
Yeah.
But as a general rule,
Exactly.
I agree. I think, and maybe it's just my preference as
I'm
a
the same.
fan of comedy.
I moved.
That I do prefer, the edge of the East Coast.
Oh, I do too.
And that's what I wanted to ask you. So you're going to be in this movie. Have you done any acting before?
Yeah, I have actually. Well, I graduated from. I went to the New School. I also went, as I said, to UCB, Upright Citizens. I did improv, so that was an amazing foundation. I did a lot of teams and did a lot of that stuff out there. I've done a lot of plays, and I did a couple of small parts in movies. I did a movie with Zoe Saldana called The Skeptic. But the music always was like what paid the bills.
Right.
It was so I always loved acting, and it's funny. I don't know who was saying it, but like sometimes, you're saying about Andrew Dice Clay that he wanted to be an actor and then he got into comedy and then it's sort of how it goes full circle. I would have probably done acting if I thought that my life would support that, but I had to like make money and I could sing and I didn't need anything to do it. I could just go someplace and sing. I played guitar, I wrote songs, but I knew that I could make money quick.
Did you take lessons?
No, I was self-taught.
That always amazes me.
Yeah, I'm self-taught. Although, it's funny because the higher up you get in the business, like for instance, doing these like symphony shows now, like even my boyfriend, like he's a Berklee graduate. He plays like 57 instruments. He's like a genius. You realize your limitations, right? Like you start getting around people who can sight read or whose ears are amazing. I can't. So I have to, in some ways I almost have to be better because I have to be so quick. I have to come in and like assess it and I have to have my own way of learning. What they don't know is that I just spent 2 days like in a room, like shedding the music so hard where like someone like Mark can just walk in and like look at it, you know?
If you're going to play a cover song, right?
Yeah.
You listen to the song and you just have the natural ear where you can hear that song,
Yep.
pick up a guitar and play those chords and you just know how to do that.
Usually, or I will pull up the chords, not tabs. So if it's tabs or like music notes, I can't read it. But if it's just the chords, then yes.
What did they call that when you'd buy like that sheet music? It wasn't sheet music. With
Like tablature.
Yeah, tabs. So like in other words, there's a way. If you see the actual notes, then I can't read it. But if it says D, G, E minor, F, I can read that. Like I can play that.
Gotcha. But Mark doesn't have to even know the song, hear the song. He can look at it.
You could cough and he'll tell you what note it is. It's like the most.
You hate people like that?
It's obnoxious.
Oh my
Thank God he's not in here.
It's obnoxious.
Yeah, I bet he's good looking. Has a big,
And he's
big
cute
penis
and he's
too.
lovely
Yeah,
and
shit,
that.
Yeah.
But you know what? And there's people that have different strengths than other people.
Totally.
And so I always say it doesn't diminish anything
No,
that
and
you
he's
have
the
because
first to say it.
because Lady Gaga's a headlining act and so are you. The three
Right.
of us are headlining acts in comedy, but so is Chris Rock and Kevin Hart.
Right.
We might obviously have draw different crowds.
Sure.
And maybe I don't know, maybe we're
very
just as
generous
funny
from
as Kevin Hart, or maybe we're not. But it doesn't matter. But the point is, some people are stronger at different things, and
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
some people are stronger as a performer.
Yeah.
Sure.
Some people are better writers.
Well, I realized that too.
Yeah.
I think that after I left the band is when I probably realized that my writing was a talent. Like it was just something that I did. I didn't realize that.
How
it
many
was,
years were you in Antiquity Rising?
Gosh, probably eight years in the end. Yeah, close to 8 years. Maybe 7 or 8. But I think leaving, realizing that is not something everybody knows how to do. Write a song.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I see with bands is they're missing a songwriter.
Yeah.
They got 150 songs, but they don't really have any
Like,
songs.
the lead singer can sing. He's a good-looking guy, but they need the songs.
They can play their instruments, but they have no songs.
I know, it's tough.
I want to go back to why didn't Saxon ever make it big in the United States? I mean, they clearly were able to write songs.
I agree. I
They
think they're good songwriters, and I think they've adjusted with the times, but without losing the core of what they do the best in terms of their sound. But I don't know, man. I think just they never. A lot of bands this happens with, and this might have happened to you over the years. Is and it's sad that sometimes they want you to fit into a certain box, and if you don't, they don't know what to do with you.
It's awful.
And like if I'm someone in the music business and someone or the comedy business and someone doesn't fit into a box, I'm grabbing that person and holding on for dear life.
I agree.
But like I've tried to sell a bunch of TV shows over the years, and I've come up with great ideas for stuff. For television, but the feedback you get is like, well, we don't really know what to do with it.
Yeah.
We don't have anything to pair it with.
It's the same thing with music.
Oh my God.
Where are we going to play it?
Big time.
This you put this on, and then you find something to pair with this.
Oh no! When the president of the label looks at you and says, "Radio doesn't play chicks," they don't play chicks sing. They don't play rock and chicks. It's like, oh.
But do you have more outlets now to be able to between streaming, between Hulu's and
there's definitely
a lot more like
but they all say the same thing.
Really?
They all say the same thing. or they just take your idea, which has happened many times.
Yes,
that's happened
I've
to you.
heard a lot.
Oh yeah, but
I've
it's
heard
like,
that
what are
a
you gonna
lot.
do? It's the same as someone takes one of your songs.
Without a
It's
doubt.
like, okay, well, I could just either write another song, which is probably the better thing to do, so you don't have all that negative energy in you. And I mean, unless obviously you're making a living on the song. But same with the TV idea. It's like when someone steals it, it's like, all right, what am I going to do here? Am I going to hire a lawyer and sue a network?
And how much
What'd
time
you do
and
the first
energy
time
give that?
that
That's
happened
what
to
you're
you?
saying, and I agree.
Yeah.
It's like too much energy to give to something negative.
I just didn't, I was just like, you know what? It's just.
Let it go.
You were
I'm
that
letting it
calm?
go. Yeah.
Oh boy, man, you're a good person.
Well, you were kind of in a similar situation too
Very
when
much
when
so.
you were leaving the band as well.
Big time.
Why don't you talk about that a little bit?
So when I left the band, it was an interesting situation because we were very successful. We were doing very well, but the inner workings of the band, unfortunately, we weren't successful. We didn't get along. And we were putting out, I think, the projection that we got along. And it was a toxic atmosphere, and I needed to leave. But because I come from a family like the Omerta, like you don't talk about things. Like
Right.
I never told
Were
anybody.
you making money with Antigone Rising?
Not as much as people thought. We got some nice.
Because that's got to be hard if you're making money to walk away from a toxic
I was making
relation.
money. I was making money in that it was steady money, but I wasn't making a lot of money. I had made a lot of money that I gave away to the band, like publishing deals, record deals. We split, even though they were my songs. We still split everything. That was what was right because we were all doing it. 250 shows a year for years, so everybody gets paid. That's what's correct. But it was a really hard breakup, and when I left, they kept everything. They kept all of the music and the royalties, and they kept all of the gear and the van and the road cases and the instruments and all the things that all of our.
You don't own the songs anymore? You don't get any royalties or nothing on them?
Not really, no. They've kept a lot of things, and I got to a place where I had to make a decision. Do I move forward, or do I spend my entire rest of the 10 years of my career, whatever it is, fighting backwards, swinging backwards, or do I try to just rebuild? And, I chose the latter. It was really tough. I mean, financially it was tough. Emotionally it was tough. And I kind of went underground for a while. I disappeared, and I didn't talk about anything. So I think a lot of people thought I just left the band and didn't give a shit. And that wasn't the case. I was just...
What were you doing all that time?
I went to Los Angeles. I did have enough money to kind of, take some time and disappear. I was in Los Angeles when I joined the band, so I went back to Los Angeles after I left. And I started writing for other people. Yeah. So I got behind this, so that was good.
Stayed creative.
I stayed creative. I was acting. I went back to school, and then I was like painting and just kind of being creative.
It's better to put your mind going forward and go, you know what, that's just an idea.
Yeah.
You know what, I got ideas, look, it's a dime a dozen. I have tons of other ideas.
Yeah.
Let me just move forward. I'm not going to focus on trying to sue a network
No, and
for an idea because they're just going to claim, hey, parallel thought. We
Right.
already had this in development, and then it's you against them. And it's like, you know what? If that take my idea. If
That's
that makes you
unfortunate.
happy,
Yeah, and honestly,
take my
karmically,
idea.
it's like you just have
Karmically,
to, you just
yeah.
got to let it go. And I think musically, when you look at the band and look at what they've done since, and you look at the songs that I've put out since, I think it's very clear who was writing the music. I think in hindsight, you can see it now.
Yep.
Even though at the time it wasn't necessarily projected that way, that I was really contributing that much. I didn't need to scream it from the rooftops. I thought in 10 years everybody will see.
Are they still together?
There's not only are they still together, they still call themselves Antigone Rising. They have a very different sound. They have a different lead singer, and it's not even that I begrudge them that. I just don't appreciate being erased from the legacy because there wouldn't be a career
You're
there
like
had I
Michael
not
Anthony
been there.
with Van Halen.
Yeah.
They
Exactly.
took him off the
I'm like the
website,
fifth
everything.
Beatle.
It was like
Yeah.
he was never in the band.
Yeah, but now it's almost like I don't even
if you're a Van
wanna-
Halen fan, you know he was big part of that
Jesus,
band.
Way bigger than
Yeah.
most fans would know.
Exactly.
Yeah,
of course.
yeah.
Guys, this has been a great episode. This has been a great hour, man. Things
Lot of
have
fun.
just
Absolutely.
flew by.
It's been so fun. Thank you.
Don, tell us a little bit where you're going to be, where people can pick up Denim and Leather.
Denim and Laughter, yeah. And I love that people confuse
I
it
love it.
with Saxon's Denim and Leather because I'm going to go on.
It looks just like.
Well, I'm going to go
the
on
album.
tour with the singer of this band,
Biff?
with his solo album, and
Wow,
tour
that's
in the
crazy.
UK and Europe. And so I'm hoping when I'm selling my CDs after the show, people will think I'm selling Saxon's album, and I'll get a bunch of Mercy sales off of that. But yeah, new album, iTunes, Apple Music, like I said, Spotify, all those places, physical copies at the gigs, and I'm on all the socials, Don Jamieson, Jamie. SON, and come out to a show and enjoy. I work with these cats a bunch, and yeah, would love for you to come out,
Definitely.
and love to come see you as well.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Where could people find you? What do you got going on?
So,
We got the new music.
Yeah,
here.
I didn't do the artwork yet, but that's coming. The artwork is on the stick actually at this point, but I have the new single is out on Spotify and all of the things. It's called Kill the Lights. Cassidy and the music is the way that you find me on all of the socials. CASSIDY, and I will have shows and everything posted up there on my Facebook or on the Instagram, and just doing lots of shows and have the movie this summer. So keep your eyes out for that. It's called Parallel Worlds.
Well, we wish you the best with the movie. We wish you the best
you.
with this CD. That's awesome. Sean and I, we're going to start doing this now once a week.
Yeah, we're going weekly as
weekly.
of this
Awesome.
episode. Yeah.
Well, this was super fun.
Yeah,
And hopefully we
thanks,
can
guys.
finally put that show together that we've been talking
We've been
about
talking
for the last year.
I would love to do that.
We could do a combo comedy acoustic show.
He said, "Would you call it Beauty and the Beast?"
Beauty and the Beast.
I'm in.
Yeah, that's perfect.
I'm
We
in.
should do it.
I
I
think
would.
it's great.
Yeah,
That would
yeah.
be so fun.
We'll
I would
finally
love
get
it.
that going. But listen, guys, thank you so much for coming in. Keep checking us out. We're on iTunes and Spotify, and
Podomatic.
YouTube now, apparently, with episodes, which you get to see the video portion of the podcast. Cool. We have some great shows coming
Yeah,
up.
iHeartRadio's coming soon. We'll be on.
Excellent. Yeah, we have.
Amazing, guys.
So we'll be going once a week from now on.
Godspeed.
We have our next episode will be taped in 2 weeks.
Because Sean's a big shot now. He's now a full-time comic, and he's going to be going on a cruise, working the cruise, not
Yes,
It's
vacationing.
official.
He's going to
Yeah,
be
it's
working.
official. I'm a full-time comedian as of 9 days ago.
Beautiful.
So-
Congrats,
I
man.
love that.
Oh yeah, tell me when I got to pay the rent next month. But thank you guys so much for Jeffrey, Paul, and myself. Thanks for checking us out, and we'll catch you in a week.